Hey, James. Hey, Shelly.
Hi, Cindy.
There she is.
Yeah, well, are you guys good to get started then?
We're good.
Perfect. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for
Sounds
joining.
good. I'm just going to hang back. I'm sorry. You get started. Now, who are you in the glasses and the black dress?
I'm Rebecca. I'm a museum
Rebecca. Okay, great.
Sweet. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this evening's program, which is an alumni panel that's in conjunction with the Wingate Museum of Art's Art at Hendrix exhibition. So the exhibition is entirely online and it can be viewed on the museum's website, which is wingatemuseum.org. My name is Rebecca Jolly. I'm a senior at Hendrix and I'm a museum associate in curatorial research. I'll be co-monitoring this panel with the wonderful Hannah Samuel. She's a sophomore and a museum associate in education. And while we're hosting this evening's program virtually, we want to acknowledge that the Wingate Museum of Art at Hendrix College occupies the traditional lands of the Osage, Quapaw, and Caddo. And we offer our respect and gratitude to the Indigenous peoples who have cared for the land over generations. So as we begin tonight's discussion, I just want to remind everyone to please keep yourself muted. And if you have any questions for James, Cindy, or Shelly, please type them in the chat box and we'll address them at the end. So I think that's all of the intro material that I have to throw at you. So I'll let Hannah introduce our first panelist.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to introduce our first panelist, Shelly Gentry. And Shelly Gentry graduated from Hendrix College with a bachelor degree in humanities with an emphasis in art, and in 1986 went on to pursue an associate degree in interior design from the Harrington Institute of Design in Chicago. From 1990 to 1994, she combined her fine arts background with her education in architectural interiors and worked in the interiors division of the Chicago architectural firm Perkins & Will. In recent years, Shelly has established herself as an Arkansas artist, working in several mediums, including acrylics, pastels, and mixed media. Her works are recognized and collected throughout Arkansas and beyond. Shelly is currently co-owner and gallery manager at the Art Group Gallery in Little Rock, where her works are also shown, as well as through her personal studio. To view her work online, visit shellygentry.com or artgrouparkansas.com.
Thank you, Hannah.
Our next panelist is James Hayes, who was born in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. He owns and operates the James Hayes Art Glass Company in Pine Bluff, and his work has appeared in numerous solo and group exhibitions across the United States. After receiving an art degree from Hendrix in 1988, he searched for a new medium to express his artistic talent, and 3 months later, he discovered glass blowing at the Arkansas Art Center's Museum School. He's since studied glass blowing in Italy, France, the Glass Furnace in Istanbul, Urban Glass Brooklyn, Newtown Plaza in Hong Kong, and the Pilchuck Glass School near Seattle, Washington. Some of his honors include receiving an invitation from the White House to design a Christmas tree ornament and being featured on High Profile in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, and on KTHV Channel 11's Everyone Has a Story. James has also been featured in multiple publications, including the At Home in Arkansas and Southern Living magazines. James was chosen to design the 2001 Governor's Arts Awards and designed ornaments for the James Hayes Christmas tree in the Governor's Mansion in 2007. He was also awarded the Hendrix College Odyssey Medal in Artistic Creativity for the 2006-2007 year. James was then awarded the Business of Art Award from Pulaski Technical College in 2008. He's been selected by multiple organizations, charities, and events to create custom glass awards, including the Above the Bar Award for Ballet Arkansas and the Autism Angel Award for the Arkansas Autism Foundation. Hayes' chandeliers can be found in the Hendrix College Borough, the UAMS Psychiatric Research Institute in Little Rock, and the Arts and Science Center of Pine Bluff, amongst other locations. And James's works are available in his own showroom in Pine Bluff, in addition to the Arkansas Art Center, Arkansas State Capitol, Clinton Library Museum Store, and a myriad of other locations, which you can find listed on his website.
Our next panelist is Cindy Scott Heisman. From as far back as Cindy can remember, she loved being at her family's gallery and custom framing shop. Her parents encouraged her to pursue her interests, so in college, she studied vocal music and theater. Cindy Scott Heisman received her bachelor's in humanities from Hendrix College in 1988. After a year of working in professional theater at the Arkansas Repertory Theater, her parents asked her to work full-time at Cantrell Gallery. Cindy met her future husband working at the Rep and went on to work in professional theater in Berkeley, California the next season. Clark joined the team at Kentrell Gallery in 1990, and it didn't take long for Cindy to realize that working in a small family business was a dream career, and she has considered working for someone else again. Cindy's parents, Helen and Norman Scott, started the art and custom framing business in 1970, and in 2009 she purchased it. The gallery celebrated its 50th year of being in business during the pandemic this past summer. Over the 30+ years that Scott Huisman has been in the art business, she has organized over 200 group and solo featured exhibitions, including shows for fellow panelists James Hayes, Hendrix professor Matthew Lopez, and Betty McMath. One of the missions of the gallery has always been promoting both established and emerging artists. Cindy enjoys marketing, display, promoting, social media, ad design, and visiting with customers. She wears a lot of different hats throughout any given day, including all kinds of behind-the-scenes operations that go along with running a small business. Cindy and her husband Clark live in Midtown Little Rock, minutes from their gallery. They have one son who lives downtown in Little Rock, and he is the tour and events manager at the Rocktown Distillery. Cindy and Clark have 2 dogs they bring to the gallery, which is simply icing on the cake. Thank you, Cindy.
Perfect. Thank you, Hannah. And thanks again to our 3 wonderful panelists for being here tonight. I want to start off our discussion with your time at Hendrix, since the exhibition really centers around that experience and what it's allowed you to do since. So I'd love to hear from each of you, what stands out about your time at Hendrix, and if there are any particular maybe courses or professors or memories that stand out as favorites or as particularly influential. So we'll start with Shelley, if that's okay, and then we move on to Cindy.
Well, I will be forever grateful, above all, I would have to say, for the relationships that I formed at Hendrix. They've been long-standing. Several of you are right here on, in this group with me today. And I think it was invaluable. I mean, priceless, as the commercial goes. My time, not only in the art department, but in the choir. I was active in the choral program. And Hendrix really grounded me and taught me how to think and how to explore my curiosity. I don't think it was the role of any liberal arts college to make you necessarily an expert in any field, but to teach you how to explore. And I don't even say passion so much as I say curiosity, that you can have curiosity in different areas. And Hendrix was an excellent foundation for setting the tone for my future and exploring the directions I wanted to take beyond college. And I could list a number of people that influenced me along the way, but I just want to say that overall it was a very rich experience that I wouldn't trade for anything.
Great, thank you for that. Cindy, do you want to share next?
Sure. My time on the Hendrix campus was life-changing. It seemed like a very pivotal point in my up to that point, I really don't think I'd ever been challenged as far as learning how to learn. It was this whole, quest for knowledge that was instilled in the students at Hendrix. And I have so many fond memories of dorm life and, parties and dances. And we did these coffee hours, like a coffee, like where we were
Coffee
just,
house.
having coffee house, having talent nights and, things like that. But I'll agree with Shelley as far as fond memories of choir and theater department. The art department was very small when we were there compared to how it is now. But I have fond memories of all of the arts and relationships. And I wouldn't trade my time at Hendrix for anything either. I think that's maybe something Shelley said, but I have to agree. It was such a valuable experience in my life.
Great. And James, do you want to hop in here and talk a little bit about your time at Hendrix?
Sure, I was reflecting back, of course, lifetime relationships and things circle back as far as the relationships and the connections. And you'll hear a lot about the Hendrix Mafia. It's not a bad thing. It's a group of us, and we all stick together and look out for one another literally all over the world. One of my fondest memories about the art department, it was small. We had Dr. Hawes and Dr. Marr, and they just let us do what we wanted to do. taught us a little bit and let us explore. And I took over a corner of the art studio in Trishman and made it my own. And I just sat up there and just painted and painted and kind of made it my hangout. I really enjoyed it. And I guess the only thing that encouraged me to be who I am today would be Hendrix, because we explored different mediums. And you said in my introduction, I explore different mediums. I don't, and now I continue my education. I explore different techniques that I can incorporate into my glass work. I go to glass schools and study all over the world. That's all I have to say on that.
Thank you all for those answers. Moving on to our next question. All three of you own a gallery or a showroom in some capacity. Could you tell me a little more about your respective galleries or showrooms? You can start, Shelley, if you'd like.
Oh, good. Always good to be first. Okay. Well, I am co-owner and gallery artist and gallery manager of the art group gallery in Little Rock. That startled me all of a sudden. Okay, the screen sharing, great. I consider it to be sort of a hybrid situation as a gallery, in that it's not your traditional gallery owned by, one particular owner and curated by that owner. And it's also not a traditional, what I define as a traditional co-op, in which you have an owner and you who rents space to different artists to come in and show their work. So ours is a partner-owned business. So when we bring artists into our gallery, we're not only bringing artists in to show their work, but we're bringing in creative business partners. And so we're looking for artists we're looking for the whole package. Of course, we're looking for a certain quality of art, but then we're also looking for what else they bring to the picture: marketing skills, computer savvy, technical skills, construction. Oh, you're showing some pictures that were maybe 8 years ago. That's before my time. So a lot of construction has taken place since that time. And so we are continually evolving and we look for new artists all the time, but we're fortunate enough to have a group of a waiting list at this point. We have several people who've approached us, and it's nice to be in that position where we're not actively searching at this time.
Thank you, Shelley. Cindy, do you have anything to add about your gallery?
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. Would you repeat the question?
I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about how your gallery operates and any details about it.
Oh, yeah. We have a type of gallery situation where we represent local artists mainly, and we have about a dozen or so artists represented in our gallery at this time. And it's in the Cantrell Heights Shopping Center in Little Rock, and we do have a website and social media presence on Instagram and Facebook. And so we have long running relationships with most of the artists that we represent, and we also offer custom picture framing. And so the framing keeps us busy, and the two aspects of the gallery work so well together, hand in hand. And we have been in this location since 1976. It's been a really good location for us, and we enjoy not just showing for the local artists, but we offer restoration services, and we work with an art appraiser who's also a Hendrix graduate, Jennifer Carmen. And one of the restoration companies that we work with locally is Norton Fine Arts, and the owners of that business are also Hendrix alumni. So lots of good Hendrix folks working together with the mission that we have at our gallery, to not just show the art, but to try to educate the public when people come in and show them, you know, the different art that we have and explain how pieces are created and that kind of thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. James, would you like to add anything about your gallery? I know that you exhibit
yeah.
your own work
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. I find it interesting that Cindy's got a connection to an art appraiser. They're literally rare as hen's teeth to get an appraisal. Just a quick little history. I remember my first art show was at Irby at Orby, and right off of on Main Street. I think my second art show was at Cantrell Gallery called Process Chaos. Now my gallery, you of course you can come watch me blow glass, especially when this COVID's over. But you can watch me blow glass. My showroom's open from 10 to 5, Monday through Friday. I have special shows there. I also am in a new partner gallery in Bentonville. There's 15 of us. We pay rent. I work 2 days a month in the gallery, and I worked yesterday, Saturday and Sunday. And I enjoy my gallery. I'm traveling now. I've got work I've got to deliver. That's why I'm running behind. It's like there's 5 of us, no, 6 of us on payroll. Me, my wife, Meg, Andy, Jared, Amanda, and Lynette. So I've got 2 in the showroom, 2 in the hot shop, and Meg and I, we're all over the place. Well, my showroom's in Pine Bluff. Y'all didn't know that.
Well, thank you all for talking to us a little bit about your respective galleries. So the next question is about, again, your galleries. So we wanted to talk a little bit about how you decide which artists you want to represent or to host a show of their work, and then also why you're so dedicated to showcasing the talent of local artists or just generally of being so active in your local artistic community. So we'll start again with Shelley, if that's okay.
Okay. Well, we do focus entirely on local artists. I feel like it's a service to the community in a sense, because we want to bring to light what an incredible wealth of talented artists we have here, not only just in Little Rock, but in Central Arkansas and Arkansas as a state. I think it's it's amazing how many talented artists that we have right here among us. And so we have chosen to focus on highlighting those artists at our gallery. We currently have 19 local artists in the gallery full-time. And then from time to time, we bring in different artists for special showcase. We also sponsor workshops, educational workshops throughout the year. Of course, in the past year, COVID has changed the circumstances for those workshops, but we are persevering. And for instance, this upcoming year, our theme is Inside Out. So we have pivoted and we are trying to sponsor workshops now that concentrate on plein air painting. So we are constantly looking for ways to build community, not only among the artists who are represented in the gallery, but in the community as a whole. So these workshops are open to the public. And we are intent on fostering relationships in the community and with our own artist community within the gallery. And I think that's an exciting prospect for all of us who participate at the Art Group Gallery.
Great, thank you. And Cindy, if you'd like to share your
Yeah.
insight, I'd love to hear.
As far as how we go about deciding about picking artists who we're going to represent, I always tell artists who are considering wanting to find representation in a gallery that don't just call around, like actually go around and visit all of the galleries in the area and do that, a time or two and get a feel and meet the people who work there. And eventually the artist is gonna get a feeling about where they want to show. And so then we take it from there. And if they're interested in showing in our gallery, then we set up a time to actually see some of their work in person and learn more about them. But it ends up being, like I mentioned before, a really long-term relationship. And so as many artists who are interested in having gallery representation, of course, we have to feel like that technical aspect of their art being for whatever it is that they're doing with their art, that it's of a certain standard. And we're looking to fill certain niche in the gallery, as far as if we already have several artists who do watercolor or oil painting on canvas or pottery or whatever the different, medium or style or genre is, you're looking for something a little bit different, hopefully. And so we go from there with meeting with an artist and considering their work and considering if it's a good match. And it's a fun and interesting process. So that's kind of what goes into it for how we work.
Thank you for that. James, are you in an okay place to talk a little bit about?
Absolutely.
Great.
It's interesting. That's a great question. I just started a new thing. My gallery, my showrooms on an old dairy farm. There's a lot of buildings. One of the buildings I converted into the Green Door Gallery. This is a new thing. I'm inviting young artists, old artists, new artists. I've even asked Susan, that's watching us, to show in this gallery. I've had 2 exhibits so far, Lauren Meredith, and there's a painting behind me, but that's another story. And my second artist was Amelia Dennis. She's a graduate of Hendrix College. I guess I see a nod there. That's great. And I encourage other artists to apply and ask me. Not necessarily apply, ask me and say, I want to have a show. And I'm doing these in conjunction with my own show. I'm trying to give back to the community that I've taken so much from. And I'm just kidding about that. I do like to give back to the community and the Screen Door Gallery to be part of my legacy and giving back, really. And that's the process I use. It's new to me. In my showroom, it's just me. Now, this gallery I'm involved in Bentonville, we're on the ground floor and still exploring. I'm watching artists, blow out. They can't, and when I mean blow out, they can't pay the rent. And the rent's $200 a month. And, if you don't sell any work, we seek new artists that can sell work and work 2 days in the gallery in Bentonville. And that's how that works.
Yeah, thank you for that. Amelia actually has a piece in the Art at Hendrix exhibition. It's a digital collage. It's called Charity.
Yeah, she does. She does.
Yes, so I highly recommend looking into that. James, if it's okay, we have a couple of questions for each of the 3 of you that are tailored to you individually. And I think Hannah's gonna kick us off with some questions that are tailored specifically to you.
Okay.
All right. So James, we were wondering how you got into glass blowing in the first place. Did anything at Hendrix inspire it, or was it outside of Hendrix? How did you get into that medium?
Oh, absolutely. We dropped a bunch of acid and went to a Grateful Dead concert. No, I'm just kidding. No, we did go to a Grateful Dead concert, and afterwards we went to Jamestown, where it was the first settlement in America, and they had glass blowing there, and it planted a seed in my brain. After I graduated, I saw that the Art Center was offering glass classes, and I took the class. I loved it and fell in love. And that's how I gotten started. And I've been blowing glass for 33 years now. I've never stopped.
Gotcha. Before I ask the next question, I just want to point out to anyone who's watching that this piece here on the right for any current students is a chandelier that James made that's in the Burrow on campus that I'm sure you all recognize. And then this piece on the left here is called Ring of Fire. It's his piece in our Art at Hendrix exhibition. But James, I wanted to ask you what inspires you typically when you set out to make a new work, and if you feel that maybe your intentions change as you craft the piece, or if it's able to stay pretty steady throughout the crafting process.
Well, I always begin with the end in mind, and typically there's a drawing and there's dimensions, there's colors. And now I do know what inspires me. I'm definitely inspired by nature. You can see the spiral, the Nautilus designs. I like, and colors that occur naturally. I guess all colors are in nature. That's kind of simple. And I like to look at fashion. I like to look at design, what's popular in design, color combinations and things like that. That's what inspires me. For the most part, there's just three basic shapes in glass blowing. There's the round bubble shape, there's the triangular shape, and a rectangular or cylinder shape. And I just used to do variations on that. But one thing I do enjoy about the glass is more the sculptural aspect. I really like sculpting. And one thing I came up with last month is, and a lot of my ideas come from clients. I make angels, great. But now I'm making a Methodist angel, and Hendrix is a Methodist college. I didn't really I knew that, but now in the angel, I put a white background, a red flame, and a black cross on the front. Also, my latest sculpture, it was a Methodist angel, but pictured there is a little love bug. And it has little copper antlers. That totally came out of my mind. Nobody's ever seen a love bug. I just invented my version of it. And that came about from another creation I did about 2 years ago. I did Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I would get copper antlers, and the copper is recycled. I get it from a scrap yard here, well, in Little Rock. You talk about scrap and recycling. Is the sculpture on the left is made from recycled glass, like a broken bowl, and I chop off all the pieces and fuse them flat, and I use scrap iron and build a stand for it. How's that for an answer?
That's great. Thank you. I was wondering if you could tell us about your favorite commissioned project or commissioned piece and why it's your favorite.
Oh, goodness. Actually, I think I'm getting a double dip on the same commission. There's a hospital in Kentucky, and it's right across the river from Cincinnati. I did a huge installation of chandeliers and for a hospital, and now I'm getting the same installation in another part of the hospital, kind of add to it. And another favorite installation, I like doing the big chandeliers. My biggest chandelier is at the University of Arkansas at Hope at Hempstead Hall, and it's 15 feet long and probably 5 feet wide. That was exhausting. And that's probably my favorite. It will be my favorite if they ever come up with the budget to light it.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your answers and your insight with those questions. Cindy, I'd love to talk to you now a little bit. The first thing I'm curious about is your experience, running an art gallery, specifically a family-owned art gallery, and how that's kind of changed your perspective on the art world and in your own local artistic community.
Oh, yeah, because my parents started the business 50 years ago. And so I was 3 years old at the time. I didn't even have a concept when I was growing up that it was kind of not typical to just like, 24/7, whatever's going on with the business, that's going to be the topic, like, at the dinner table, discussing whatever, ads or promotions or art or whatever. So back at the beginning of my parents starting the business, there really wasn't much of a local art scene at that point. And so they were basically importing art from other countries, and there was a big by the decades it seems like there was an evolutionary time frame of the 70s, where they were just doing these like typical traditional looking oil paintings that people would hang over their sofas. And then in the 80s we were getting more into original graphics and educating people about how can something be an original and a print, and what does this mean, and edition sizes, and that type of thing. And probably by the time it was the late 80s is when we got into the local art scene. And as far as it being a family business, that's just the best part of it. I get to go to work with my husband and my mom and our 2 dogs, and we have a lot of fun. And hope I answered your question.
I was wondering, you already touched on this a bit about the art scene, the local art scene especially. How has it changed over the years, especially in Little Rock and Arkansas and surrounding areas?
Yeah, that is kind of, I read too much into the first question. I was jumping ahead maybe, but yeah, it's really been an interesting process. I think the museum school that James mentioned, where he first took glass blowing, I think that's been a really good influence there at the well, it's now the Arkansas Museum of Fine Art. But for them to have that kind of place for people to learn art locally, and it's really made a big improvement in the art community. And we always feel like that what's good for what's going on in our art community is good for Little Rock in general. So we really like being a part of that.
Thank you. And then my last question for you, I was gonna actually ask about you getting to work with other Hendrix alumni like Jennifer Carmen or the Nortons, but you jumped ahead on that one. You're so on top. No, you're good. So I am gonna maybe use this time as an opportunity to get you to talk a little bit about Reflections, your the Warren Criswell piece that you loaned to Art at Hendrix. Would you mind just saying a little bit about that while I pop it up on the screen? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Totally fine. Yeah. The piece that I submitted for the exhibit at Hendrix is a portrait that a dear friend of ours, Warren Criswell, did of me when I was 13 years old. And I'm sitting on the sidewalk in front of what is still our current location where Cantrell Gallery is now. Look, the interior looks quite different at this point, but I absolutely love this piece. It's a very favorite piece of mine in the collection. So I was thrilled that Hendrix selected it. And I think what's amazing is it's a watercolor. It's a huge piece, and it is just so delicate, and it has all kinds of interesting hidden aspects to it. The reflections, there's a license plate where it says Saturn. There's the whole piece is replicated again in a within a small piece on there, and it's a really fun memory for me. And I'm so thrilled that Warren just surprised us with coming by to take photographs and get started on the painting without me realizing ahead of time. And so I'm just dressed as is in my overalls, my Converse tennis shoes. I think that t-shirt says 10 grins are in, and I'm not showing my teeth in this no teethy smile. I'm, hiding those braces, but it's a very favorite piece of mine in our collection. So I'm really happy to get to share it with everybody.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Moving on to Shelley, I was going to ask about your time and your studies in Chicago. I was wondering if you suggest anybody to move to a big city to study art, or if they should stay local, things like that. And how did Chicago influence you in particular?
Well, the 6 years that I was in Chicago were just amazing. It remains, I would have to say, probably my favorite large city in the United States. The educational experience, the technical skills that I developed at Harrington Institute of Design, and then the work experience that I had with Perkins and Will, and the internships at Perkins and Will, and then I also interned at the Federal Reserve Bank, and I had some fun experiences there as part of a remodeling and expansion project that was going on at the time. Just in addition to the experiences geared toward my education and work, just being in Chicago it's amazing. The art, it's an art and architectural jewel. And so I would always highly recommend that if you have the opportunity to travel, not necessarily to move somewhere, not necessarily to move to another place, but to travel and experience other environments and other people and situations firsthand. I mean, of course, I think that's always going to be beneficial. Nowadays, however, and I'm going to show my age here, nowadays, I mean, we all have the world pretty much at our fingertips in this cell phone, so you have so much more access to anything in the world, just about, without ever leaving your home. So I think it's not as essential maybe as it was then, but certainly the value that you acquire from doing it remains unchanged in my opinion. And I would always recommend travel if you have the opportunity.
I'd love to talk about your personal work now. And something I find really interesting about it is that you alternate a lot between hyper-realistic works and then more abstract works, like your piece of exhibition. So I'm gonna share some pictures of your work while you answer this, but I'd love to know what draws you to working in these two different styles, and what changes as you switch back and forth between them.
Curious to see what you're going to show here. No, yes.
Hopefully I get some okay things.
Okay. I have jokingly, but not so jokingly, referred to my studio as the studio of the dueling easels. And you guys, speaking of braces, I have some new ones on, so I hope you can understand me. I like, and it's well, okay, those are two abstract things, but I like to go back and forth between the realism and the abstraction because feeds different parts of my brain. And I'm going to go back, if you'll indulge me for just a second, I'm going to go back and refer to something at Hendrix. As an art major, when I was at Hendrix, I was also the art major who was in the accounting department quite a bit at the time. I took accounting, econ, money, banking, and credit. And it was finally my junior year, one of the professors pulled me into his office and said, "Why are you here? You were an art major at the time." And I said, "Because I can get the right answer." And it's so rewarding to get the right answer on a balance sheet. And over on the other side of the campus, there's no one right answer. It's just you're always searching for your answer. And so I kind of have followed the same vein with my art practice now. And when I am painting a realistic subject, and I'm usually looking for something that's pretty much an ordinary object a lot of the time, like I did accidentally break this goblet of mine and was dismayed for about 5 seconds. And then I thought, well, look at that light coming through there. That's pretty amazing. I could paint that. So I'm usually looking for something that's ordinary, and then I can transform it to something extraordinary. The mug's another example. So the challenge in this is analytical, just like more like the mathematical side of the campus at Hendrix. And I love an analytical challenge to recreate what I've seen and enhance it through colors or perspective. I'm never out to just recreate a photo or something that I'm looking at from my life. I want to enhance it and make you look at it a little more closely and think about it a little longer. If I did that all the time, I think it would become somewhat stressful. So I like to balance it on the other side of my studio with abstract work. And there I'm just generally inspired by, could be music, could be a poem, it could be something somebody said to me. It could be something that someone in my life is experiencing. And I just think, let me try to paint what's in my head. And that's where, again, there's no one right answer. It's just going to be my answer. And sometimes that's the most vulnerable art experience that I have. And if it goes well, it's highly rewarding. So I really like the dance back and forth between the two types of approach for my art. And I know that's maybe rather non-traditional nowadays, but it works for me. At least thus far it does. So does that cover it?
Yes, thank you so much for sharing your process. That's really interesting.
Thanks.
Last question we have is, how do you design and paint gallery spaces? What kind of decisions do you make into account when you're doing that?
Is this for me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, in the real world, it is, in my case, it's budget driven. So I think if we had no budget, there's a list of things that we'd like to implement and design in our gallery. But in our case, it's very budget driven. So we have, in our case, we want the art to be the star. And I think most gallery owners would say that. Although I've been in others where there's a featured paint colors and art's featured in that way. But in our space, we try to let the art be the star. And so we're always looking for the best neutral color to highlight the art. And then we are continually taking down walls, moving walls. In fact, we have an artist who happens to be quite talented as a former set designer and in construction, and he's just constructed some mobile gallery walls that we designed, and they've just arrived, and we're excited to have that addition to our gallery. So we're just always looking for ways to improve the display and enhance the display of the art. And of course, lighting comes into play there too. And like I say, a lot of it is budget driven. And so we have to be patient sometimes in making our dreams a reality in terms of the gallery space.
Great. Well, thank you for that. And thank you to all three of our panelists for answering Hannah and I's questions with such care and attentiveness. I think those are all of our questions. So I'm going to open it up to the audience now. You can type in the Zoom chat any questions you have, and Hannah or I will ask. But we already have one that I'm going to go ahead and ask. It's for Shelley, and it's about your love for painting animals. So could you talk to us a little bit?
Yes. Well, I am an animal lover through and through. So I have always liked to paint animals. And I did this whole series about 4 or 5 years ago called Windows to the Soul. And I think that kind of says it all for me. I do love to paint the animal. Eyes are my favorite things to paint for the animals. But my commission business has evolved to such that I stay pretty busy painting other people's animals. And I guess a couple of years ago, I didn't anticipate how much I would enjoy that, but I really do. And I think it's as much because of the relationships that I have an opportunity to form with the clients. And we all know, those of us who love our animals as much as I do, know that how much they mean to us. And so I have had the most endearing stories and experiences with the clients as a result of getting to paint their animals. And I really look forward to it, and I stay busy with it. So I've started another one this morning, and it just appeals to me because I'm such an animal lover. So I still squeeze in some of my own animals, my own commissions, my own compositions from time to time, but it's heavily weighted toward commissions at this point.
Great. Thank you for that question, and thank you, Shelley, for that answer. Hannah, I'll go ahead and ask the next one, and then maybe you can get the one after that. So Patsy asks if there was ever a time that one of you didn't think that your artistic path was the right one for you. So maybe James, I'll ask you first if that's something that resonates with you or if that's something you've experienced.
You're muted, by the way, James. There we
I've
go.
unmuted. I'm sorry. I need to text the customer my address. And your question was about taking the wrong path?
Yeah, if you ever thought that maybe the artistic path you're on, or maybe glass blowing specifically, wasn't the right direction for you, or if you
Well, you see, I'm much like a zebra. I'm a zebra from Pine Bluff. And I'm you like that, Shelley?
I do appreciate that,
I'm
James.
behind you. Yes, you're welcome. But no, I always wanted to be an artist. I always wanted to be in production, like a factory. I like the way things are manufactured, multiples of things. And I'm very happy with the path I've chosen. You know, you hear this a lot. My father just wanted me to be happy, pick something I want to do the rest of my life. You know, I tell people that, but it's true. I really picked what I wanted to do, and I'm doing it. And it's interesting. I'm 54 now. It's like, wow, I can see the future till my retirement, or retirement age anyway. Not that I'll ever retire, but I'll just be doing what I'm doing now for the rest of my life. So there's that. I'm gonna pass now. I need to send a text real quick. I'll be right back. How was that?
Sounds good. Cindy, I think back when we talked, I think it was almost a year ago for narrative labels for this show, I think you mentioned that growing up, you didn't think that you wanted to be involved with the family business. You thought you wanted to do something else, and then eventually realized that was your home. So maybe this question is something that you've experienced. So, you know, you didn't think that was the right path for you. So if you could either speak a little bit on that, or correct me if I'm totally misremembering that.
No,
That'd
correct.
be great.
When I was growing up, the part-time that I worked in my family's business, it was okay, but I didn't think it was for me. And I really was serious about pursuing both vocal music and theater whenever I was at Hendrix. And I thought that was going to be, theater life was really going to be, you know, what I landed on by the time I graduated. This is all still in the arts, mind you. But when I wasn't as enamored with theater after my 1 year of doing professional theater, and my parents invited me to come back and work in the theater, in the gallery, it was a completely different situation all of a sudden at that point. I was no longer like the child just there, you know, like I was treated completely differently. And there was like this new position of responsibility. My dad even would say, treat this like it's your business, you know, just make decisions not like an employee, but like you are in charge here. And I mean, you know, that ownership feeling was awesome. So I just tried to model after him all the way through with, you know, coming up with clever promotional ideas or whatever. And that's really come in handy during the pandemic with all of the scrambling we've done to get imagery from inside the gallery out there some way or another. And so, you know, starting a YouTube channel and getting the videos on Facebook and doing all of that. And so it as far as it being, though, it is any thought of doing anything else ever, it's always been the arts for me. I find it fulfilling. It's a passion. It's something like what James just said. I don't even picture that there will be retirement, because if you love what you're doing, then why would you ever stop doing it? And my mom is almost 82 years old and still works full time. And we love it. It's just it's like I said, it's a passion.
Great, thank you for that. Shelley, do you have anything you'd like to add? I want to give you the chance to answer if you'd like.
Well, I mean, I sound like a Cindy in that I can't remember a time when I wouldn't have said, if someone asked me, what are you going to be, or what do you want to be? Even as a little girl, I would have said, I'm an artist. I probably would have said, I am an artist and I want to be an artist when I grow up. So it's just always been my identity. And thankfully I was able to pursue it. I mean, going, the interior design, the commercial interior design route was intentional for me as a way to kind of embark on a business-oriented career, or so I thought. And it was actually a great combination for me of my fine arts and then the business of the commercial design. And I'm thankful for that time, but that was probably after a few years of that was a time when I realized that this is not something I want to do full-time for the rest of my life. So I'm very happy doing what I'm doing right now. And I echo Cindy's comments. I can't imagine stopping, because it's just who I am. So.
It looks like we had one more question. It may have gotten answered already, but Luella was wondering if you started majoring in the art humanities majors, or did you initially want to major in something else?
Oh, I think Shelley and I have the same answer on this, because she and I were talking about it recently. Well, I'll let her answer for herself, but
Thanks, Cindy.
I started off definitely a music major when I went to Hendrix. I was on music scholarship, and yeah, and then about almost 2 years in, I realized that I probably wasn't going to end up wanting to just be a music major, because I was getting very involved in theater. And at that point, I didn't really have, enough time frame and with credits and whatever to finish out where I was going to be the theater major either. And I was getting so involved in all of my studies, and I was looking at it as more like just a liberal arts education at that point, and humanities was the major that fit the very best with what I had at that point. And to me, I think that's just a perfect outcome for a school like Hendrix College, because humanities isn't really just focused in on one aspect of the arts. It's just, this wonderful combination.
I had begun as an art major, and that had been my intention when I came to Hendrix. But as throughout the first couple of years, I realized that at that time I wanted to embark on like I said just a minute ago, a more business-oriented career, or so I thought. And so I decided to go the humanities with an art emphasis. You had a specific art emphasis, a specific emphasis at the time. So I chose art, of course. And I thought I will just try to lay the foundation for my future education, because I did intend at that point to continue education beyond Hendrix. And I would concentrate on the more technical aspects of my education beyond Hendrix. And so I wanted to have the most broad base and well-informed foundation to bounce off of after Hendrix. And I think that worked well. And the humanities was a good choice for me. I do think I was the only humanities major who had a senior art show. I had to ask permission if I could do that, since I wasn't officially an art major, and Bill Hausen and Don Marr agreed to that. So it was a great direction for me. It served me well.
Good. And it looks like we have time for one more question, which is perfect because we only have one more in the chat. So Angela asks how you guys decided on Hendrix as your choice of college. So Cindy, I'll start with you, if that's okay.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I got to attend governor's school the summer after my junior year in high school. And I was peripherally aware of Hendrix College because I had an uncle who attended Hendrix and years earlier. And I just had this impression of it, being a really nice school. But after the time I was on the campus for governor's school, and I really got to experience the campus firsthand that way, that was plenty to convince me that that was the only school I applied for. But I was just so convinced that's where I wanted to go.
Gotcha. James, do you want to answer, or is now an okay time for you to hop back in? I think you're muted.
How about that? Yeah, I'm just working and I've been listening to all you guys. Sorry, I've been apologize for jumping around, but I applied to Bennington, Vermont, checked out Memphis State, and I think my mom wanted me to go to OBU or, oh my God, some other religious Baptist college. Oral Roberts University. My goodness. Nothing wrong with that, but whatever. So, and my father said, I'm going to give you a car and a college education. I looked around and I found Hendrix. And I said, I think this is a good fit for me. Well, I don't know if I explained myself. My father said, I'm going to give you a car and a college education, and then you're on your own. And I took him at his word. And once I graduated, I made my own way. I paid my own bills and so forth. So, and I appreciate my father. And I did purposely pick the most expensive, best college in Arkansas. I really did. And I liked it. I loved it.
Well, I'm the daughter of a Methodist minister and the granddaughter of a Methodist minister. So you could say that Methodism kind of runs in my veins. And so I grew up knowing about Hendrix and respecting Hendrix's academic environment. And I love the small size of the campus. I love the beauty of the campus and the academic reputation that the school offered. And it certainly met all my expectations. So I grew up wanting to go to Hendrix pretty much.
Great. Well, thank you three again for answering all our questions, and thank you to everyone in the audience for attending. And
thanks for having us.
Oh, no problem. We're so glad that you could be there or here. Yeah, well, unless anyone has any last burning questions, then we will let everyone go for the night. But be sure to check out the rest of our panel discussions. So you can find us on our Facebook page or on wingatemuseum.org. And you can find a list of all the panels that we'll be having in the future. So have a good night, everyone.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Go Warriors.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye.